Hi there. My name is ML and this is Healing After Loss. Today is the 2nd of July, Wednesday, 2025, unless you're seeing it on some year other than 2025, in which case it might not be Wednesday. But it also might not be you watching it on July 2nd, so never mind. What we're doing is working our way through this book, Healing After Loss, Daily Meditations for Working Through Grief by Martha Whitmore Hickman. There is a link in, I believe they call it the show notes below, for you to acquire your own copy, if you'd like to follow along, on a site that is not the big behemoth beast that we all know as the online bookseller. I don't believe in giving them any more of my money. Thank you very much. So, here we are on July 2nd. Everyone can master a grief, but he that has it. William Shakespeare. We are usually our own best judge of what we need to be doing as grievers. To be sure, we could often use a nudge from friends, if we're being too reclusive, for instance. Or maybe we need professional counsel, if we know we're just not doing well at all. But we don't need to take seriously the comments of probably well-meaning but ignorant folk who imply that we are being indulgent or weak in not getting over it by now. Whether now is 6 months or 6 years after the loss has occurred. Every grief has its own timetable, which only the griever knows. And usually the journey through grief is slow and often delayed. Someone once said it takes 7 years to adjust to the loss of someone close. So there's no need to apologize if after many months we are still finding grief a major preoccupation. And there is nothing to be ashamed of if a particularly poignant memory reduces us to tears a very long time after our loved one has died. What to reply when someone says, "Seems to me you should be getting over that by now"? How about the above quote from Shakespeare? Not only is it an appropriate response, but you'll seem quite the scholar as well. So here's that quote again. Everyone can master a grief, but he that has it. William Shakespeare. Okay, so I like today's post for today because it's been just over a month since Smokey died. And maybe that's not the biggest grief I'm experiencing right now. I'm taking a reprieve from my acting class. And so at my last session, I was grieving hard. I'm still wearing a Pride t-shirt because maybe I'm grieving the loss of Pride Month, or maybe I'm just too lazy to put on other clothes. But there are things that we grieve in our lives, losses that we grieve in our lives that aren't necessarily the death of a human being. I certainly do still grieve the loss of my mother almost 20 years ago. Because that was Mommy. Am I over it? No. Heck no. Will I ever be over the loss of my mother? No. Heck no. And if you know me at all, you know that heck is not the word I would typically say, but I'm trying to keep this channel clean, at least for a little bit. My mother was killed in a horrific car accident. So many things went wrong. It wasn't her fault. It certainly wasn't my fault. But I still miss her. A lot. My first cat, Coco, passed almost, 3.5, almost 4 years ago. She was my baby. I've mentioned this. That loss was hard. Smokey passed just at the end of May. it's been hard. I do think about all of these beings that I have lost from my life. But this past Monday night, when I realized I'm not going to see my acting class playmates. They're playmates. They're all fine actors. We all get so much out of that class, and it's an ongoing class, so they're all still going to be in it for the most part. I don't know who's on the roster for this month, but I'm not. I'm taking a break. I need to focus on other things just for a month, maybe 2. And that's it. By September, I expect to be back with my playmates. But it hit me hard that I'm not going to have that group, that I'm not going to have that Monday night appointment for the next 8, possibly 9 weeks, however many Mondays we have between now and September. And because I allow myself to be vulnerable with people that I love, everyone in class this past Monday saw me break down, saw me at my most vulnerable. And some of them didn't know why. And thankfully, no one actually asked. I specifically told 1 or 2 people, but for the most part, no one asked why I was so sad. But I was desperate not to lose that part of my life, even for the temporary, finite amount of time that I had decided that I am giving up. I'm grieving something that I have given up, and yet it is still a very distinct, noticeable, nearly tangible loss for me. I have no idea if any of my playmates will experience the loss of me the way I am experiencing the loss of them as a collective. And it doesn't matter. What anybody thinks of me is none of my business. Because I can count on the fact that in the course of my day-to-day life, other people aren't thinking of me. I might pass through their thoughts the same way Smokey passes through my thoughts, but they're not thinking of me with judgment necessarily, and if they are, it is none of my business. So I sit here and I grieve, and hopefully by next week, I'll have acclimated to the temporary, finite loss of my playmates as a collective. But I was surprised that it hit me so hard at the very beginning of the class and lasted through the course of the class. I was still able to do my work, but it came from a much more vulnerable place. Did I say vulnerable or vulnerable? Vulnerable place. And so here are my thoughts for you. If you're grieving something other than a human being, if you're grieving something other than a pet who was a family member, if you're grieving something other than a loss, not a death, if you're grieving something other than a death, the loss of a relationship, no matter how temporary that loss may be. I had a session with a woman that I know who is grieving the loss of her hearing. It's significant. It's a loss. If you're grieving a loss, then I'd love for you to take William Shakespeare's words. I'll paraphrase it this time. Everyone you know can tell you how to grieve, but you don't have to listen to them because they're not grieving. So they've mastered it. You don't have to expect to have mastered it. So I'll leave you the way I always leave you. Please, in the coming week, take care of yourself and give yourself grace. And I'll see you next week. Thanks for tuning in. Oh, I should have said all of this before I gave my closing. I apologize. Please, if this is helping you in any way, like, share, subscribe, and please, please, please comment. If I say anything or I read anything that speaks to you, if you get your own copy, let me know that you've gotten your own copy. I'd love to interact with you by way of my recordings and your comments. If you have something that you would like to speak with me on a future session, reach out. I don't think I have a contact me button, but reach out by way of comments and we'll figure out how to get you in on Zoom or even over the phone, over speakerphone. I'll talk to you. I'm happy to make this a conversation as opposed to a monologue. Because I can do a monologue, but I like to have it written for me. I'm an actor. So, again, thank you for being here. Thank you for liking, sharing, subscribing, commenting, and in the coming week, take care of yourself and give yourself grace.